All right, all you devils, how we doing? Here we are, Friday the 15th. Of course, we'll take a look at Bitcoin on a Friday. Now, members here, I'm kind of late getting this to you. It took me a while to see if I could come up with something that was kind of new to our conversation here. And I don't know that there's a lot of new material. We're in a bit of a hurry up and wait to see if we're going to complete this last leg. Now, before we get into this too far here, for those of you watching on YouTube, members here, bear with me just for a second here. Just a reminder here, if you're going into the weekend and you got time on your hands, you're not out fully, released from your confinement, depending on where you are in the world. Just a reminder, you can always join us for free. That's an option for you. So if you've gotten some value from watching here on YouTube, we'd love to invite you to join us over on our Discord here. And no cost, no obligation, no pressure. But it would give you access to a good amount of our content here, certainly as relates to crypto. And of course, you'd have access to the white belt, which is a great place to start. See, and again, I remind you, it's not an Elliott Wave course. This is a TA course, but there's foundational knowledge in there that will benefit you if you decided to pursue blue, purple, and above, where you would have more emphasis on some of the Elliott Wave structures. But just a reminder here, all of these options are available to you. That link is directly below in the description of the video. So if you're interested or have been thinking about it, come on over, join us for free. I think you'll like what you'll find in there. Okay, with that said, let's get back over to our chart. Now, we left it last week prior to this little drop. And we still seem to be well contained. Hang on, I got to turn off Sorry, my futures alerts are going off. We still seem to be awfully well contained with this set of median lines here. Even with the drop here that came back to this structure we had talked about. Excuse me, this being a perfect golden corner, right? So the 80% from the golden corner is what long realized, but look how nicely we've framed this. Yes, of course I see the drop outside of it, but then what do? After coming outside of it, this is the 1.5. We've come right back and tagged the median line. So if we're going to go up and finish this count here, now I'm out on an 8-hour here on Binance to the dollar tether. If we're going to go up and get this, and we'll look at it, it looks like it needs to have one more little kick. So the algo target up here, what do we have there? Call it 10.9, a reasonable target. Now we do have some structural resistance and just some psychological resistance to get through, right? So here's 10 grand, which we tagged, which seemed to be really close to this little pivot, this little structure right here. That's just shy of 10 grand. I don't think. Well, there's 10,012 cents, right? So within a couple of ticks. So we know just psychologically that's a number that the market's likely to respond to. So if you were long from anywhere down here, you can understand how people might be tempted to take profit there. And for bears looking to press, you can see how that would be an area that they might take advantage of. And then additionally, just kind of, let's do it this way. Just looking here, if you just kind of look, if you're just price analysis, and we're just kind of grabbing all of this up here. Well, just looking from the prior structure, you can understand how any shorts that rode this down would be defending here. Oh, come here. Let's try again, third time, right? So essentially what we're doing here is just a big, assuming we're going to go up here and challenge that. What are we doing? Just a perfect triangle. I mean, that's about as V bottom as they get, right? It's pretty remarkable. Straight down, straight up. So now, as a result of that, both the move down and the move up have not provided the cleanest Elliott counter, so we're not getting what you'd hope for, where we're nice and easy, where you've got all that. We're getting lots of just these extreme wicks. This is typical of Bitcoin, right? So particularly now as we've rallied up into the halving, now the halving is come and gone. So we had a little bit of a buy the rumor, sell the fact, this phenomenon here. Now you can talk yourself into a number of different reasons as to what happened there, right? Okay. Miners, that can't afford the revenue stream as a result of the halving and their reward getting cut in half. So some of them might have to, sell some Bitcoin to raise capital. I mean, there's lots of fundamental reasons that you might talk yourself into. But you know what you want to do is just, that often will get you in trouble. As a trader, if you're down here trading at this kind of level. Now, if you're out trading on the daily, maybe you give it a little more leeway. But if you're trying to trade within the swing structure here, my advice is just to focus on the chart that's in front of you, and don't try and, it's easy to get caught up in, the Twitter, crypto Twitter, and, what the last guy said about the last guy's comment about, the prior comment. What's in front of your face? What do you see? What is the market telling you? Well, if we're just looking at it here, kind of just wicking off a few areas here that look, look like we have structure. So if you're just a price action guy and you're not really concerned about the Elliott, you're just looking for the structure and the support and the resistance here, it's pretty easy to understand why we bumped our heads here. Now, looking at the count here, so I'm going to take this off here. So with this set of median lines here, we know it's in play. But just to clear up the chart for our purposes here, let's just hide that so we can get into this a little bit more. So this little bugger right here is kind of screwing the whole thing up, right? This is what's problematic to the Elliottician here. This overlapping this structure here is kind of just that little overlap has influenced everything in terms of how an Elliottician's got to count this, is influencing everything, right? It's kind of annoying. Because you'd have a cleaner count without it, right? But you can't. That's a rule. You can't accommodate that and go, well, we won't talk about it this time, right? You can't do that. Well, let me say it this way: you're no longer trading Elliott if you do that, and you just go, well, that's fucking inconvenient, right? So I'm just going to ignore it. Careful doing that, right? I get it. Like, I'm dying to count this without that overlap, but if you got to make a decision, right? Either you're going to apply Elliott or you're just going to kind of apply Elliott. And if you're just kind of applying anything, that's likely to be problematic for you over time. So the idea here is the rules and guidelines force your hand. So you're forced to count this differently because that overlaps. So you can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Even if you did that, you'd be a little ill at ease here because of how shallow that was, right? For a 2. All right, we didn't even make the 38. Now, have we seen it before? Has it ever happened before? Of course, right? But in terms of your confidence in the bull count here, you'd be a little bit ill at ease here because we didn't get something more like that. That's what you'd hope for. So you're forced it to work backwards. So you have to go, where are the 5s? Again, we've been through this a couple of times here. So where are the 5s? Well, I can definitely make out a clear 5 here. So this certainly looks like it's a 3. You can see I've got it identified as a 3. We get as you'll recall, and again, as we've looked at this a couple of times, this is a perfect golden zone, right? We go right up here. We get right into, right where we started here, right into all that structure where you can anticipate, well, likely to be some selling pressure up there. Well, you could think of it this way. What happened the last time we got there? Right? Sellers took over. Well, are we going back up? At the very least, we talk about this all the time in the day trading room. I was kind of using this analogy, right? I'm really going to date myself here, but you guys remember the Marathon Man? Well, some of you will probably have never even heard of it. But those of you that have seen that movie, as the dental drill was whirring, right? Don't we all hate that ring, that sound? What was he asking him? Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? Right? That's really what's happening here. Is it safe up here? Or sellers going to come in and just overwhelm the market? Well, again, we kind of look last time. So, again, if you were short here and it's come all the way back, so who's short there? Right? That's the question. Who would be short there? Well, we've kind of gone through this a few times, right? So we can look here and go, well, if you were trading the 50, well, they've hit their target. So it would seem, that you could kind of talk yourself through, oh, well, if they shorted here, they've already got their target, right? So maybe it's just residual. Maybe it's just stubborn bears. Maybe it's just price structure. Well, you know, you're never going to know, but you do know that likely as a result of that, right? So as a result of the fact that this has gone to target from anyone who was trading that 50, right? Or whether it's an algorithm that got its target down here, there should be fewer sellers here because the ones that sold took profit have already got it, right? They're already in and out. So who's still here? Well, right, we go here. Get right on that. Oh, come on, right on that low. Second time, right? So did this just get reloaded, right? Did we? So with the sell here that's completed, have we just now bumped into yet again another algorithm here? Could shit. Well, you know, we're never going to know who's behind them, but just another algorithm here that's selling at the golden zone, looking for lower prices, right? But that's a reasonable explanation as to why we stall here. So you can look here and go, well, man, I can really understand why we stall here. We just, I mean, if I'm 10 minutes in, all we've talked about is what happened here. So it's not going to be, it's no small task to get through this. Right, and then of course we got to contend with what's above, right? So, come here. We looked at this last week. Jesus, I can't even get it on the screen. Get it up here, right? Well, we all remember this, right? Right. Last time we were there. So is just the same thing happening again? Well, there would be the 50. So we got to get up here. We got to get over 14,000 to really have clear runway. So we are not in the clear. Get that right on that. We are just not in the clear until we get over that, right? That's for bulls. We aren't. It's no Lambos till we get through 14K. Got to do it. Even something kind of wild like this. And I see you look there and you go, well, okay, if it took a while to get there, right, sure would make sense. Well, so now you look at so you've got, do you see what you have here? So you'd have one V completing here, right? If that completes, but what are we doing here, right? Just another V, right? Same thing happening again. If right, big assumptions, right? If we're going to go up here and challenge this and tag that median line, I'm trying to get that tick perfect, but it's pretty damn close. So, well, looks like that median line could be in play again. So you don't want to ignore that. Now you wouldn't need to have that on your chart, you know, all the time. So but don't forget it's there. So maybe you just leave it and you hide it, right? So. Come over here, let's just hide that, but don't forget that it's there so that you know, well, up here, what was we're just talking about 14K, right? So this you could just think, okay, what am I going to double top? Can I break that high? Can I get past that 14? Well, that's a whole lot of maybe. And until we complete what appears to be an impulse underway, until we complete that, well, it's all just speculation right now. So let's get back to this count, see if we can make sense of it. So as we look here, because this little fucker here is forcing the whole count forward, we got to work backwards. So this looks certainly like a completed impulse. Now this, even typical Bitcoin, you've got just a free fall here, right? Which is a little bit surprising, right? Well, this was, you know, again, right to the halving. So it just collapses. Now we've recovered. So shit, what are we doing again, right? So just another V, right? A lot of V's in Bitcoin. So it looks like you might tentatively be placing your 4 here relative to this 1, 2. So this looks like working from here because I've got a clear, oh shit, I can't remember if that, well, here's my 5. I do think, shit, I can't remember. Give me a second. Did that overlap? Let's just double check it before I call it anything. It's not. Oh shit! Did it? Did it? No, I'll be damned. Right? It's to the tick. Okay, so I digress. Okay, so I've got an impulse into this 1 here. 2, 1, 2. That sure looks like 3. That's done. Given what followed. Now, there's an alternate count here, but this is the cleanest of everything on the board. So I've got impulse, impulse, impulse. Right? The corrections are a little sloppy, and they're not, you know, this is not a clean ABC, right? So this could be a WXY, ABC, WXY. It's not a clean correction, but we, you know, based on what's followed, we know it's corrective. Even if you just did, you know, something something like that. Okay, we had a little corrective action down here. Now there's classic retests from above. This is actually, that's a good little note here. You see this all the time. Channel breaks, we got to check the channel, right? You could think of it just as a trend line. You got to double check it, right? So we're back to, is it safe? Is it safe to be a buyer here? Is it safe? Whenever I say that, I just hear the dental drill in the background. Is it safe? All right, let's test it. Up we go. Yep, safe. Okay, so you got to work backwards now. If this is 3, if we've completed this, sure looks like it's a strong contender for an impulse. Now this if this all just collapses, right? This gets relabeled. So you're not hard locked here. It's just this needs to complete, right? We got to go up and get this. Right now, we'll get there in a second. Right? Just if this is the 3, we got to work backwards into the 2, 1. But we can't, because of this little fucker, it can't be 1, 2, 3. Annoyingly so, it can't be. So you have to work backwards. Where's the last 5? Well, I got an impulse here, 2. So I go 1, 2. I'm stuck with it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So what do we do with the beginning, right? So the beginning is just as problematic because I get this double top here. So you've got to go 1, 2 there as well. There's no alternative. The market is forcing you into this count, assuming you're going to apply Elliott rules and guidelines. Now I know, all right, slow down, guys. Right now, YouTubers. Yes, I understand, and yes, I know this could be counted in more than just one way, right? And the bears, this is just one big ABC. I get it, guys, right? I'm not oblivious to it. But this is the count that I think is underway. So that's what you're going to get here. Don't like it. You're not being forced to watch. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just dealing with what's here. So to really get more confident with this, because that's not the count you'd hope for, but you're being stuck. You're just being forced into it. This has got to go up and complete, so that I can look at that and go, okay, I can see where I am in this count. I got to get that to complete. Okay, now I know where I am. Well, now I've got another completed impulse. So same thing. I got to work backwards. What did I just complete? Well, because I've got an impulse here, it's got to be 1, 2, 3 at the next degree. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, what do I do about the first one? Well, that means you've got an even bigger one that you got to go get. So this is a whole lot of potential, but recognize, of course, that if we fail on any one of these to go up here and get the whole thing, because this is could come crumbling down. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. But we can't just be bulls blindly bullish. We got to be cognizant of, well, how does the whole thing fall apart? And I tell you right now, this starts to fall apart if this doesn't complete. If we go deeper here, so this would be critical. Let's get this here. If you're looking at this, you're going, well, it looks like it's a little tired up here. Looks like and this was a sloppy, right? We'll get there in a second. This is a sloppy correction. If we're going to do something like that, well, you're going to sure pay close attention to that right there. I'm going to change that color so I don't confuse some of these other pivots. All right, so that needs to hold for sure, right? If we're going to hang on to the idea that this is 3, 4, and we're pushing for 5 here. Well, so then you look at it and you go, okay, well, because it sure looks like this could be a B wave. I mean, it certainly is a contender as a possible B. So we look here and we go, all right, well, it kind of went deep here. We went beyond the 886, so we'd have to go, do I have, oh, shit, I know I've got 887 in here somewhere. Give me a sec. Let's just get 887 on there. Okay, so, yep, 887 to the tick. So we go up 887. All right, so it certainly is still a contender as a B wave. And it's not a particularly a good-looking impulse to where you'd be going, oh, 1, 2, 3, oh, that's clearly the 4. Is possible, yeah, possible. Let's get that off here. So then you start thinking, okay, well, if that's a B, well, how do I reconcile for that? If that's going deeper, I know I got to pay attention to this 1, or this whole count is going to fall apart. So if this is going to come down from a B, well, where's the first thing I'd be looking for it, right? 100%. right? Just a measured move. A to B equals C to D. That's the first thing you look for. But if it breaks that, then you got to be really careful, because the next most probable zone would be the 127, 138. If we get into that, now the impulse is dead. And this count falls apart because it's no longer an impulse. Right? And you wouldn't, so if you're a bull, you do not want to see that happen, because this has to stay an impulse for this count to stay alive. If we invalidate here, well, then you're semi-screwed, because you've got an impulse here. This has to be an impulse. Now you're back here going, God damn, did the bears have it right the whole time? Right. So again, we're not there yet, but if this starts to slip, you know, respond accordingly. Right? Don't just stay, well, my stops are down here, 3,200, right? You got to allow for this to get relabeled, right? So remember, an Elliott count, and this is what Elliott critics, they get so caught up in the fact that, oh, well, if it's labeled here, now this must be fulfilled. That's never the situation. An Elliott count right here is just a snapshot in time. This is the most probable count as I see it, right? Let me qualify that. This is the most probable count based on just what's in front of me. But the market is constantly, it's like a never-ending strip tease. It's constantly revealing, oh, there goes the top. Oh, now the skirt's coming. Well, I shouldn't be so sexist. All right, so you're revealing, right? So you're revealing a little bit. There goes another item of clothing. Oh, now what? Now what am I seeing? Oh, it was a guy the whole time. I kid, right? So, but it is a bit like that. It's a slow tease as it reveals itself along the way. Right now, this is just a snapshot. This is just what can I see now? Now, what happens is, it's almost like the same idea. I'm going to stay with that metaphor, if you will, or that analogy. When you can't see, this is the power of the imagination. When you can't see what's underneath it, your mind fills in the blanks, or what you can't see. So right now, and this is just human nature, right? So the Elliottician is looking here, and I can't see that that's completed, but I sure see the shape and the curve and the, I see all the soft and the hard spots. I'm going to say it that way. So is it going to reveal this? Am I going to get what I'm hoping to see underneath here, or am I going to get something I really don't want to see? So cool your jets, Elliott critics. This is not locked in. Like this is always done in pencil. How about we say it that way? This could easily get relabeled. But right now, as this creeps higher, this looks like the most probable place for this to resolve. But of course, right, I'm 22 minutes in. It's got to get through this. Got to get through that. Then we get a little more confident. Then, then at least this impulse, yeah, okay, we can put that in pen. But, of course, some bear's going to say, well, then it's just a big ABC. That's all you did. Maybe. Good luck. God, could you turn it? I think you'd have a problem even turning that 1, 2, 3. If you don't, well, it doesn't really. I suppose you could dig out a diagonal here with a 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. Yeah, you probably could. Oh, that's probably what bears are looking at, right? You could turn this into a 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. So you'd call it an A, very shallow B. Now you're up for the C, right? And then I suppose a bear is going to think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that, okay, there's your bear count. Tenuous here, right? We're a little tenuous, and you just look at it, just kind of you bring it in like this. Boy, that's been climbing for a long time, right? This is the only correction we got. Yeah, right. Is it enough? Is it enough? Are we just going to double top here? Well, of course, no, we don't know. But let's go down, given that enough attention. Let's go look here. Right. So, what are the odds that this is gonna complete? Well, if you just looking at this right here, if that is going to go, it sure looks like this is 4-ish. Right. If we're going to go here, this can't come down too much farther. And again, or this is going to start to fall apart. And then you have this as a cluster F in here. This is not the kind of correction you'd hope for here. Now, yes, we did come to that structure, right, that I was talking about last week here where we had this was all kind of teed up. You had this obvious structure here. We came down, yeah, we got a wick through it, but this held us, this little bit of pivot, in addition to the fact that it's a 50. So if this is correctly identified, it's going to hold as the 2. Well, we've got our 50 right there, right? So we know we have the potential, even though it's a secondary pivot, we've got a potential algorithmic activity here. Right, this was the perfect golden corner, so we know an algorithm used this pivot because that was the golden corner, right? So that was the golden zone. So we know that's an algorithm that drove that up. So now as we come here again, high probability, even though it's a secondary pivot, because an algorithm used it, we know that's likely being used again, right? If they used it here, that drove it up. They're going to use it again here. So now to go get that, right? We got to get through this. So you know there's an algorithm that bought it in here that's going to stay long until we get there. Now, the one thing that's helping here is that you broke the sell side algo from the top, right? We're already to the 887, so we've broken that golden zone. So from this pivot, we don't have that sell side resistance. That's the most encouraging thing here as this stalls here, which is really not what you wanted. But this is going to, over the weekend, this is going to need to kick. Right, and as often the case, it could be Sunday night. You never know when that's going to happen, but there's not a lot of room for this to start to fall before the count gets in trouble. So let's just look at it. Oh shit, here, hang on. That takes a second to reset. Oh, that's probably hard on the eyes. All right, so you don't have, is this your 2? You've got a shit count here. So maybe, and this is just making do with what's here, maybe you're working through this. Let's get that to something. Maybe that's not much of a, that's a gnarly looking 3, right? Because you've got almost no sub, so you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess you can make that work. So 1, 2. Let's see, how was our fib relationship? So from the length of the 1 from the proposed 2, get it right on there. Yeah, a little shy of the 2618, which is your extreme, right? It's all right. It's not terrible. The other thing here is, I'm just going to digress just for a second as to why we stalled here, and what's creating the 3, and if this is going to be ABC or AB. Well, shit, this could turn into a triangle. It kind of feels like it wants to. All right, so we've got something along these lines going on. Well, it's a little sloppier. This needs to be filled in a little bit more. But right now, you could make a case that that's an ABC. This, that can't go too much further, right? Before this is going to get in trouble. So that I get it right there. So as we, of course, right? So one little toe into the golden zone, that's going to need to kick out of there. That can't, if that starts dropping too much further, this count really starts to break down, then we'll be back here relabeling likely. But right now, the potential 1, 2, right? We went right into the golden zone. Why would you assume it isn't? Until it breaks, assume it holds. Right, so if that's going to go, we're going to have to get up here and clear that. It's gonna, and then if that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, well, that's going to need to be a pretty big 5. If it's going to get all the way up to that algo target, right? It starts to look like, oh, how's it going to get there? That's going to need to be one big 5. Well, even let's just measure it. So if you take the length of the 1 and this is the 4, to get up to that, you're going to have to get 2618 in the 5 relative to the 1, which is hopium. Could it happen? Of course it could happen. But is that probable? Well, I mean, with Bitcoin, anything's probable. Could we do that? Well, yeah, sure we could. Let's get you off. Come here. Yeah, but you don't want to be counting on, oh, I'm going to get a big extension in the 5. You could, right? But you don't. The first test, let's get through this, right? Because this would be much more typical for a structure here. Now, keep in mind that nothing says that this has to be 4, 5. This could be 3, 4. This could be 1, 2, and we're going to have a much bigger 5. There's all different ways that this could resolve itself, but right now, this is the most probable, that we're going to go up here and we're going to test the supply. Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe to buy up here? Right? Can I get through that? Now, if we get through that, then the question becomes, then you're back testing it. Okay, is it safe now? Is it safe from above? Right? It's constantly, is it safe? Is it safe? Can I buy it now? Can I test it? Right now, it's the resistance. Can I bring down and test it as support? That's what's going to need to happen if we're going to keep climbing, because we got a long way to go if this count is going to realize all the way back to what we're, oh shit. Here we go. All the way back to what we're trying to get out of this. 1, 2, big 3. That's got a lot of things have to go right here for Bitcoin. Now, this was the thing I was trying to show you guys. So this, for those of you, this is not a bad idea to keep an eye on the Bitcoin future. So this whole move up here was just filling that gap. That's what was happening. I mean, literally to the tick, right? So they went up, filled the gap. Now we're coming back down off of it. So that helps you understand a little bit more. So as you start to put that same thing together, put in the context, 1, 2, all right, is that the 3, 4? Well, this is starting to look a little sloppy here coming down in the futures. You know, again, right? So of course this won't trade over the weekend, but what we don't want is another giant gap. So if we come back here to where we left off in the spot, not a lot of room for this to get sloppy. This has to hold here and go up and finish this to get a little more confidence in this count. All right, so all of that said, here, oh geez, I'm running long. All right, I'm gonna leave you with this little observation here. All right, we always kind of keep this in our back pockets. Pull this off, because when the Elliott count is a little bit, you're not sure. Let me just strip some of this down. Back where we started. All right, so let's get this one off. Okay, so just looking here. All right, so note the pivots that I'm wicking off. Here, I've got my low. I've got the first structure here where we double topped. That created the 1, 2. I go up. Now here, I'm just wicking. We wicked this off last week just in the context of where I might anticipate finding some structural support, right? He was screaming at you. Well, if it's going to come down, that would be a reasonable place, right? Prior resistance becomes the support. And then over here, I'm going, well, shit, I got to pay attention to that. Now here, just note here. So you go, well, why aren't you using the top? Because I'm not including the wicks, just body, right? So I'm using this pivot, if I get it right on there, using that pivot, and then looking over here and going, okay, I'm not intersecting any bodies. I'm holding the bodies here. Wicks, I don't care about as much. So if I pull that back out and I look at that and I go, all right. Well, it's hard not to notice it, right? So it's kind of hard, right? But this, you have to know to look for this. So if I look there, I go, okay. Well, that seems pretty solid. Well, what if I take that up? Pretty solid. What if I take that up? Boom, boom, boom. I absolutely guarantee you that is not random, right? That does not happen randomly. We human beings are not that precise. I promise you that's an algorithm, right? So what's the algorithm that does that? Well, that's the wolf range. All right, so let me just switch it for you and show you this. All right, remember? All right, so I call it the wolf range just because that's the guy who taught it to me. So we take the first swing, right? That's all I'm after here in the beginning, right? Where's the first swing from low to high? And I need to be right on that. Okay, so that's the first swing. Now, this can't go too deep. I'd rather see it hold the 50 here, but this went, I think, 707. So, but this is the swing that is dictating how that algorithm is responding. So here's the first half. Here's the second here, and becomes, so we get through it, but it comes back, we test it. Now we're coming up here. Look what we're about to run into. So you look at that and you go, excuse me, guys. You look at that and you go, all right, so if we get through that, where could we be going? So if this is going to hold and we're going to get through that, well, so this is just one other element here because we already have the algo target there, right? So we already have this one. Let's get that back on here. We'll just do, let's just do that one, right? So from this 50, we got to go up and get that golden zone. So right off the bat, we've got a pretty fat amount of resistance up here, right? So not only do we have all the structure that's up here, right? We've got the algo target, and then we've got a secondary, what I proposed to you is a secondary algo that's going to be here at 200% of the initial range. So we got a lot of resistance to get through, and to really confirm this count, we're going to have to get through and then test from above, right? That's the only way to get full clearance so that we can really have a bull party. So let's just slow down for a second. You look and you go, okay, well that's okay, fancy chart work. Okay, big fucking deal, right? I hear you. I get that, right? So if you don't know to trade this, or you don't know to look for this, all this is really doing is giving me structure. I'm not saying, I mean, this, would I trade off of this? Well, yes, but as it relates to the situation here, it's just defining for me the fact that I'm moving in absolutely tick to tick even increments. And you go, okay, that's fancy right there. Okay, big fucking deal. Well, do you see it consistently in the market? Well, let's just take a look here. How about the way down? Right, same thing. I had to wick it off here so I could show it to you. The first pivot low, right? So as we come down, the first pivot is what I'm measuring from. So I take that same tool. Oops, let me get my tool here. So the same tool. All right, let's go back to the wolf range. Because you wouldn't go, okay, well, it's kind of looked all right there. Well, how about historically? Does that seem to affect the market? Remember, it's the first pivot. All right, so let me get that right on the pivot. Yeah, am I on there? Let's just double check there. Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. And let's get, you got to be right on it to be accurate. Okay, let's pull that out. All right. Right on it. Okay, so here's 100%, 200%, let's get 300%. Right. So when you're looking at that, and yet again, I promise you that, right, so you see it here, we are not that precise. We are just not that precise. There's 2, there's 3, there's 4, right? Same thing. All right, so is it effective? Well, you tell me. Do you think that's random? Do you think that's coincidental? Do you think that's coincidental that it's that accurate going down and it's that accurate going up? I promise you that that's not a coincidence. Promise you. Right? So when we look at that going up, you say, okay, well, I want to pay attention to that. Right? So when we're sitting here bumping our head at 200%, you know, so you can, again, we're back to, well, is it the structure? Is it the algo from the top? Is it the wolf range, right? The range expansion that's doing it, right? Is it just the prior resistance, or is it the gap fill, or is it the round number of 10,000? There's a whole lot of reasons up here that you can understand why we bump our head right here at the 10. Let's just round it to 10, and that we're now starting to fall back a little bit, right? Doesn't blow up the bullish count. Doesn't change the potential for this count to realize. Well, let's get that back here. Doesn't blow that up, but it means this has got to go. We got to get into the next quad, if you will. I keep getting that one off of there. That's what I'm trying to do. We got to get up to the next quad. All right. So if you're measuring these like I did here, and we're going up to this one, we got to get to the next one. All right. And look where the 5 and the 3 would be. So then you would lay that back as the 4, and then that is the 5. You know, you want to keep it really, really simple, and you don't care about any of that shit, which I could understand 38 minutes in. I can understand. You're like, God, this guy drones on forever. Just put a regression channel on it. That's about as simple as you can make it. And you go, okay, well, so forget all the numbers on there. What do I see? Well, I've got one standard. I've got so I get a mean. I get a median line. So mean reversion is the concept with the regression channel. I've got 2 standard deviations on either side, and I've had a little bit of a poke outside on a couple of spots here, but I come right back in. I'm still stuck in this regression channel. So as long as this regression channel holds along the way, I'm pretty confident that we're going to keep climbing. It's a series of higher highs and higher lows. This is the first time, this retracement here that came right back to the structure where we lost that series of higher highs. Now, of course, take note in here, right? So what you certainly have the potential for some sort of a, come here, this is going to do some sort of a head and shoulders, right? You got that kind of a thing, possibly. Possibly left shoulder, head, right shoulder, maybe, all right? So it's head and shoulder is just an AB to me, right? So it's just a 3, 4, 5 AB, right? That's all I ever saw when I looked at a head and shoulders. But we got to recognize that's a contender here. But if you just want to keep it drop dead simple, here's as simple as you can make it. Are we above or below the Vegas wave? Oh, we're above. Okay, so I'm a bull. I can draw a regression channel on this. Are we in the channel? Okay, trend is still intact. Now, if I start to break out of that regression channel, then things start to fall apart. But as long as this is intact, right, and it's damn near, right, the regression channel and an actual channel are damn near on top of each other. So the structural channel as well as the regression channel being so close, encouraging, right? So here we come back to the mean, reversion to the mean, where we sit on the mean. So this needs to kick one more time. Now, it doesn't need to get out of the channel. It just needs to kick one more time to complete the 5. Right, and then we go through the whole process again. All right, guys, that's I did not mean to go that long, but there you go. All right, just a reminder, if any of that interests you, if you want to be able to do that for yourself, right? Some people look at it and go, God, why would you take the time? Other people look at what I just did and go, shit, I want to be able to do that. All right, if you're interested, join us for free. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. We'll be back next week.